the really interesting aspect that I realized is that Lyndsey met me at a time when I was still very scared of food. I was still, I think, having sound. Was I still having sound and light sensitivities when we met?
Yeah, because I remember you coming over and my kids' toys, maybe. There was also some lights we had. And I remember specifically where it was like, hey, can we put like the salt light on, turn these down? I do remember that. We started hanging out more probably as your healing was progressing because you had the capacity, right? Things weren't exhausting you. You were able to kind of participate in things that you weren't able to previously. And like,
I'm just going to hold my mic. Well, hello, we're here in the weather. Thanks for joining us. I am Kimberly, and this is my friend Lyndsey. I went through over 15 years of severe chronic experiences, and I used brain retraining and a bunch of other modalities to get myself out of that experience. And in the middle of my heavy brain retraining was when I met Lyndsey. So I started brain retraining in 2018 at the beginning. And when I would say I fully came out of my whole experience with all the chronic symptoms of after 15 years was in the very, very end of 2021 when I added my last unsafe food that I was really scared to eat. And so Lyndsey, I met at the very end of 2019. And this was right after I started driving again, which was a huge thing for me. This was getting my freedom back to bring myself places. This was the ability to go to a job after not working for my entire adult life from 19 to 34 because of these experiences that I had with Lyme disease and toxic mold and things. So the really interesting aspect that I realized is that Lyndsey met me at a time when I was still very scared of food. I was still, I think, having sound. Was I still having sound and light sensitivities when we met?
Yeah, because I remember you coming over and there were things, maybe my kids' toys, maybe. There was also some lights we had. And I remember specifically where it was like, hey, can we put like the salt light on or just like turn these down? I do remember that when we first met, and that was absolutely fine because I knew, I was aware you're in your like healing journey phase, and yeah, so I do remember those times.
Lyndsey was always extremely sweet and just considerate about everything, and always was very conscientious and kind through everything I went through. So thank you so much for all of that. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I would love to hear what you remember about me when we met, because I feel like it's a different person. I do not resonate with that person. And even there's parts of me that recently I've realized have been rejecting. So you're probably going to help me kind of in this healing process that I'm going through around remembering these times as well.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like the first time we did something was like you were at the Wim Hof like cold plunge workshop that was at a yoga center where we lived at the time. And I think that went like well. And then I remember we would just have these weekly group events that we'd get together at. And yeah, when we'd coordinate like kind of bringing potlucks or anything, I just recall like plain lentils, yeah, just like being more conscientious about food. You know, it wasn't a big deal for me because I know that there was other of our peers and people we would engage with that had preferences or allergies or whatnot. But yeah, like you were like not sure, and it seemed like everything was very like plain. But then I do remember like as we started, we started hanging out more probably as your healing was progressing because you had the capacity, right? Things weren't exhausting you. You were able to kind of participate in things that you weren't able to previously, and like super excited about that. So yeah, I remember like eating out I just remember you always picking like the healthiest or most plain option. So like when we just went out to lunch and I was like, oh wow, like a clam chowder and a burger. I was like not like expecting to share a clam chowder and a burger because even though I know like yeah, but I was just like, oh dang, we're making this choice. Cool. You know, but throughout all of our journeys, right, we've been restrictive. We've kind of dipped our toe into things, been restrictive. So it's just pretty cool to see that you can like experiment in that space more.
Yeah, it was funny because as she said this, like a part of me went like, oh my God, like reject that because I don't resonate with that part of me and that energy anymore. I know it's part of my story. I know it's still part of a lot of people's stories and that's what they're going through. I feel like I've stepped into such a different timeline that I have trouble then this is the parts of me that are healing past the traumas of this because I don't look at ingredients on things unless I'm like, I just want to make sure there's not like a ton of toxins and crap in this food that I'm buying or whatever. But if I'm eating at a restaurant, I definitely don't ask like what's in the food. I just order whatever I want, whether it's got dairy, whether it's got gluten, whether it's got certain vegetables. I didn't eat nightshades for many, many years. So there is all these things and considerations, even the lighting, like she was talking about lighting in her house, like even the lighting in a restaurant, or if there was going to be really loud music, or if there were fans going with like a light above it and it created like a strobing effect, like that wasn't something that I would have been able to sit for a while. And so it was funny to have her reflect to me like, oh my gosh, like after we finished eating, she's like, you just ate like a burger and fries and like clam chowder and like, you know, and I got a mocha with like regular milk in it. And you know, it's not even a cognizant thing anymore. And it actually helps me reflect on how grateful I am that I can, you know, choose to eat these things when I want to again.
It's really interesting because when you've been, you know, I haven't had a historical experience of dealing with chronic illness the way Kimberly has, but to this date, I am experiencing some more hardships. So like being in the space, in the wellness space, in the yogic space, and just the healing space, sometimes we feel like we have to do things a certain way, or when we've gone through it, like I know sometimes I almost feel shame for like making the food choices that I do make, but it's really interesting seeing it from a perspective of somebody who has been so restricted, who's had to go through these things because of whatever the pain it brings in your body, the reaction it brings, but then like kind of just like unapologetically being able to experience food without that like this is bad, I shouldn't be eating this, you know, is this organic or not, what oil, like it just sometimes it feels so heavy and so much. So I think I just have an appreciation, right, there's a time and a place to be really vigilant about that stuff, and then there's a time and a place to live life in the modern society that we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I am filming something with somebody doing live brain retraining coaching right now. And we were just talking about this topic. And this is a huge thing because we live in a society, in a country, in the US and other countries now too, where there is a lot of toxins in our food. There's a lot of chemicals. There's a lot of hormones. There's, you know, the soil's not good soil anymore, and then we have all these products, you know, we have all these things in the air, even like air fresheners and things like that. And so like, do I choose to surround myself with those things? No. Do I choose to eat crappy foods for the most part? No. I choose to eat a lot of whole foods. I choose to drink coconut water, drink teas.
Right, the spring water, it's like there you care.
Yes.
But it's not going to be a ball and chain that you're walking around with.
Yeah, there isn't the fear.
Yeah.
There isn't the fear under it that was there. And even with people that aren't experiencing chronic illness, they can still go through these spirals of fear around this, that it becomes kind of like an OCD type of thing, where you want things to be really pure and really clean. Because of course, like if that was the option, that we could just have that all the time and those were the only options out there, it wouldn't be a problem. When we live in a world where we want to connect with friends and we want to go get lunch, at just the local restaurant in the beach town that we're at, then like it's a cool experience to be able to do that. And something that I've been thinking a lot about are the blue zones in the world, which are the zones where people are living to be over 100 in, large quantities. And these people are sometimes smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. They're drinking a bottle of wine a day. They're not necessarily eating the best food, and they are living fine. For the most part, the common denominator with that is community and life purpose. So those are the two biggest things. So as I was going through my healing, I realized like, this is like, I was like, how are people surviving eating McDonald's? And how are people, maybe they're not the healthiest, but they are living until their 80s or something like that, eating that. And I was like, wait, there's got to be something here that's more than just what we're actually putting in our bodies. So that was a way that I was kind of able to bring myself out of that.
Yeah, I believe that. Absolutely. It's interesting, like how much our thoughts, you'll hear people even talk about like thinking about the food when they're eating it, like how grateful you are for it, what it's doing. I know for parents too, that can be really tricky, because nutrition's really important, the health of the food and quality is really important. But if you have a journey of like your child being like failure to thrive or like not a good eater, you just want them to eat anything. Just to get a caloric intake, right? Regardless of what it is. And that can be like really stressful too, but if you can just like, it's just break it down to like just being thankful or thinking about it differently can probably have a huge effect.
Yeah. And that's where we go into all the mindset around all of this and the brain retraining around this, because yes, a big part of our physical bodies and world is the molecules that we eat in our food and the drink, and they become our cells of our body. That's really important. And then also there is more aspects to us. There is the energy that we carry. There is the emotions that our body produces. So even if we're eating all organic foods, drinking the spring water, doing the yoga, using all clean products, if we're angry, if we're feeling pessimistic all the time, if we're in constant worry, our endocrine system is literally producing poison within us. That is poisoning us. It's creating the imbalances. So that is why somebody that is doing all the right things can then have cancer, can have these physical experiences happen, because it's more than just what we're putting in and on our body. It's so much more than that.
Yeah. Like how can somebody who eats the cleanest diet, such a minimal, right? Maybe like 5 to 10 different foods, doing all the things, all the minerals, all the nutrients, all the supplements, the water, the products, everything, and still be excreting poison, essentially, and toxins. It doesn't make sense but it does when you bring it down to that energetic side.
Yeah. And that's where the mindset is so important. So when Lyndsey and I met, we actually were in a spiritual group when we met. So we knew we were aligned on many things. And that was super helpful. And had you heard of brain retraining when?
No.
When we met?
No.
Do you remember me talking about brain retraining at that time, or kind of like what I was doing? I know she actually, I had been doing Wim Hof at my house, and she invited me to go to this Wim Hof workshop, which was so freaking cool. And yeah, so what did you know around mindset and brain retraining at that time?
I mean, brain retraining to me at that time just meant like mindset. Like I kind of thought of it as just like reprogramming, like subconscious reprogramming is what that meant to me. I knew it in the sense of like my reference point to that was kind of deep hypnotic states, kind of re-visualizing, recreating memories a certain way, and then also using your body, using your voice, yogically, meditation, mantra wise, kind of all these different modalities to kind of do that. Like I don't know, it still to me feels like there's so many different ways to kind of try to achieve that, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Lyndsey is a Kundalini teacher, so she is very aware of how you can shift your energy in the body, the mindsets, and how mantra, vibration, or frequencies can help shift things. Do you remember me talking about brain retraining at this time, or any of the practices or the ways that I was doing it?
I'm trying to remember if I'm thinking about it like correctly and accurately, but I felt like you were like doing, it wasn't like affirmations in the mirror or anything, but it was like really listening to stuff and then physically doing, like I felt like you were doing the mind and body at the same time.
She's on to something here. So I just posted a video about passive brain retraining and active brain retraining, and that's really cool that you remembered that, because something that is super important in all of this is a lot of people are doing the passive brain retraining, which is the affirmations, it's the journaling, it's listening to the meditations, it's creating vision boards, all super important, a part of the process. I did do all of those things, and I know that it was like what helped propel me to where I am. Then there's the active brain retraining. And this is the part where you're actually doing it in real life. Mm-hmm. So like as you go through your day, you're implementing the teachings into what you're actually doing. And I'm curious if if it's okay. I was just curious if you remember anything that I was, the ways that I was implementing it, or if there was ever a conversation we were having and maybe I said something. Again, this was 6 years ago, so she might not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely have talked about like being more of an observer. So like when I think about the way you sort of articulate this, I envision like you are like the driver in your vehicle, and sometimes you have to become the observer to what your vehicle is doing, but then what that engine like is also doing at the same time. So you'd have to kind of stop. Like you'd have to stop and then like do something else.
Yes, pattern interruption.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is exactly it. So as I was quite literally driving, I would do pattern interruptions, and something that I could do was I could actually pull over my car and do a quick round of like the Wim Hof breathing. Mm-hmm. I would do this all the time because I had just started driving again after having years of vertigo, years of tunnel vision, years of severe sensory processing, where even as a passenger in the car, I was having trouble taking in all the information that was coming at me. So as I was starting to drive again, I would have those moments where the fears, the doubts, and the dark would come through, the anxieties, and I would pull over, I would do a round of Wim Hof, I'd ground myself back down, and then I'd be like, okay, I can carry on to where I'm going, the doctor's, the store, whatever it was. And so that is super important. There were a lot of other pattern interruptions that I did as well. Sun salutations, if you practice yoga, it's just like quick ups and downs to kind of burn off that energy of anxiety. So the cortisol that starts to course through the system as we are having that anxiety come up can be burned through doing a quick process of a sun salutation or jumping jacks, or if you're seated and you want to do something, maybe tapping your feet on the floor really rapidly can help to move that energy through to burn that anxiety off. So that was another pattern interrupter that I would do cold therapy if it was appropriate and if I was at home, you know, and I could get
the pool.
get in the pool or get in the shower, you know, that was a way to pattern interrupt. And honestly, you can do it, and I did this too, was with a bowl of ice water and putting your hands in the ice water. That is a way to do it as
ice
well.
Is great. Yeah. Very cool. I do remember that, a lot of that. And then even some of the tapping, right? The tapping, I think sometimes we would even do that. That could be really helpful, or to like reinforce a new thought pattern too. So yeah, I do remember doing a lot of that with you.
Yeah, Lyndsey's super open to like, I want to know all the things. Tell me about all the things. So even though she wasn't having any physical chronic experiences, you were still working through life and working through stuff. And
yeah. I think we all would, whatever it is, whether you've got kind of like a neuroses, you know, one of mine is nail biting. Sort of if you kind of have that autism or ADHD pain stimming sort of need, it's so important to kind of explore these different avenues of a way to like support yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we were both seeing a network care practitioner.
Oh, yes. I do. Yeah.
And so we were kind of working through that program of was it SSIR, or it was some type of energy work, and part of that was tapping, and part of that was breathing, and part of that was bringing awareness. So it was kind of like another form of brain retraining.
Yes. That's what Sojourn, the spinal network care, and then they had that other part to like integrate and kind of solidify all the stuff you're getting rid of and the patterns. I do remember that.
Yeah, so this was like a great mix of you go to the practitioner and they have a modality that they help you with to heal. This was energetic chiropractic work that we were doing. And then they also had the mindset and the belief system shifting that they really were like, you need to do both of these. And again, this kind of goes into passive versus active, where the passive part of this in this case would have been that you lay down on the table and they do the energetic chiropractic for you. And then the active part of this was do the work, like do your breath work, do your tapping, do the practices. So that you can tap into what are your limiting beliefs that are coming up, what are the traumas, what are the patterns within your relationships and your family that aren't serving you, that you don't want to participate in anymore. It doesn't mean that you're not going to necessarily participate in your family and friendships anymore. It's participating in the way that you were before and shifting it out of something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, just if you know that you kind of always get into a yelling match with your mom, like that, like, you know, you kind of become more aware, and you slowly start, it's almost like chipping away at that trigger, chipping away at that automatic response until it no longer has like the same kind of charge coming through your actual body. So you actually embody it and you feel it. You can feel like the shifts happening.
Yeah. What is it like when you first start doing that?
Well, sometimes it could be even more, because you're more aware of it, and then you get kind of more mad. You get mad at yourself because you're kind of like, I don't want to be doing this. Why am I doing this? It's so unconscious. But now it's conscious. You're more conscious of it. So you have to really, you gotta have a support system, and you gotta have more grace for it, because it is repair, and you can't really model that for yourself, for other people. You can't really heal anything without kind of having that expression and then repairing it. You still have to have the expression, and little by little you repair it. You can't get rid of it like immediately. And so you kind of have to love it at the same time.
Yeah, I like the way you said that a lot. It is a process. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. A question I get asked all the time is, did you just heal overnight? And it's just like, I get it, because like for so long, I just wanted to heal. Like I was like, anything, like I'm just going to wake up one day and I was healed. And it's like, if you want to run a marathon and you're not a runner, and you're like, well, I have this goal of wanting to run a marathon, you're not going to wake up as a marathon runner the next day just because you have that goal to do so. Now, the speed at which that happens can vary for everybody, the different techniques that are used and everything. It's the practice of actively getting out there and doing it. It's starting to shift your mindset into, I am a marathon runner. At some point, you're going to be practicing and you're going to start running every day. You're going to start training on a regular basis. You're probably going to start eating differently, choosing maybe different times to go to bed. Like that goal that's up there to be a marathon runner is going to be like what helps to adjust your entire day and your entire way of existing, and say no to certain things and saying yes to other things. And it's going to take time to train the physical body and to train the mental, to train the nervous system, to train your circadian rhythms in order to do that. And so much of this is mental, even in that case. Same thing with somebody that wants to change their career, and they see their identity as this, whatever this career was that they've been in for so long, and this other thing seems so not them and seems so far away, but it's like a big dream of theirs to do it. So it's going to take like time to get from this is my reality and this is what I live in and this is what I do every day to, well, let me start researching this. Let me start seeing what this is like. Let me start looking at other options out there, other courses or skills that I need to learn to do this. Who do I talk to start understanding this? What would this even look like to have an interview at a company that, is going to hire me for this? There's a process to getting there. And it's the same thing with healing. It's, you are here. And what does this reality look like on a day-to-day basis to this is where I want to be. So if this is thriving, eating anything I want, going anywhere I want, anywhere I want, being able to drive myself places, being totally free in mind, body, and spirit, that version of you, it's going to take a lot of patterning to get there, because like I was in such a sick mindset. I was in victim mode. I had been blaming people for so long. I realized that I was constantly complaining and constantly talking about my symptoms because I thought I had to, because I was sick, because I was this, because I was that, because I was a depressed person, because I was an anxious person, because I was afraid to leave the house for multiple reasons. I had this identity that I was here, that this is how I respond to things. This is how I interact with people. This is a conversation I have with people because of these things. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to stop complaining. I'm going to stop talking about my symptoms. And Matt was like, whoa, what? Now what do we talk about? What do we think about? Where does my mental real estate even go? I had to shift like entirely the way that I was interacting with my day to day. And my reality still physically looked exactly the same as I was doing this for quite a while. And, it was from the beginning of like 2018 to October of 2019 when I started driving again that I had that major change over there. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you can remember, like from when we met and like my energy at the time, or any like stories or anything that you think is, or just comes to mind for any reason?
Yeah, I mean, it was a evolution. It was like kind of being,
oh, sorry. I was on your mic there. Go ahead. Okay.
Like, I just remember it almost felt like we needed to be very, very careful, right? There was like a careful energy. And it was like, I'm not sure, I'm trying, I'm not sure, going from also maybe like, and I think this is part of a lot of people's journey, is like needing like support from others, finding the right person to give you something that you needed, to know I have the tools and the knowledge, and I feel really kind of sovereign and the autonomy to apply it for what I know is right for me. And I don't think there's any way around that, any of us to get around that, really. I think you gotta kind of go through kind of the trials and tribulations of doing that. And so sometimes we crash and burn maybe with some of the people we choose to trust or work with. But naturally, some of them, you'll get to a point and then they're just not in alignment anymore. So I do recall like really kind of just witnessing like this evolution of that, because I think that really also informs the way you coach and show up for people, because it's not about like, I have the answer, you need me to give you this key to what you're looking for. It's more like, I'm here to support you, to empower you and give you and impart this knowledge that could be helpful. But it's really about what is resonating for you, guiding them for what really resonates, getting more in tune with that like internal antenna, if you will. And then it's like, then I'm going to send you off to the races. It's not about like, here we're going to be locked together through this journey. It's about like, you just need to get to this point and then you're off to the races in your own healing. And so I witness you in that, and now I see how that translates into how you work with others.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that reflection. It's, I say using your human resources.
Yeah.
So we're all human resources for each other. We all have different roles that we play in the lives of each other, whether that's an acquaintance somewhere, coworker, a doctor, a naturopath, your dentist, your therapist, your best friend. Like, it doesn't matter what that is. Everybody is providing something for each other. That's part of the co-community with each other. So you remember like that I was working with different people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was realizing that it was time, like, because in that whole process of knowing that you've known me, I was very much taking, though I was utilizing my human resources,
Mm-hmm.
I was also taking responsibility for my own health and being very much the advocate, asking a lot of questions. If somebody suggested something, I would take the time to think about it and say, is this actually what's right for me? Does this feel like right? And I started to not care about what the person was thinking or feeling of if I said yes or no. And honestly, if a practitioner is really somebody that cares about you and your recovery and you getting to a new place, the ego will go out of it, because it's not about if you say yes or no to them. It shouldn't matter. It's about, is it right for you?
For you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you saw me kind of go through. I was working with the naturopath that did homeopathy with, and NAET with Sojourn, with the network care, spinal chiropractic stuff. And I don't know if I think those were pretty much the two people that I think I was working with at that time. And then some energy workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sprinkled through. So yeah, it's just interesting to see like how much when you enter into a kind of like that first initial agreement with somebody to work with them, and like how then does that evolve. And everybody's got to run a business too, so like I get how there's the business aspect of it, but I feel like we're seeing those structures start to dissolve, and more people are realizing like that doesn't really resonate. But also sometimes now we work with people where that like that confidence, that fear that they have, like they have the confidence deep down. You gotta just sometimes be a little bit extra to like tap into that. And sometimes we need other people to do that.
Yeah. We're humans that are living in co-creation with each other. We need community. Mm-hmm. That's a part of our existence. And though we can make our own choices and get our own yeses and nos, having people just mirror things for us to help us understand things and to get knowledge and information from is so important. Mm-hmm. So I'm also curious. So it was spring of 2021 when I decided to move to Tahoe to become a whitewater raft guide, which was something I'd never done before. I'd barely ever even been camping. And this was a huge part of my retraining process, was to completely let go of the things that I knew that were familiar to me, the things that I was comfortable with, the things that I was, my nervous system was set around. And like my family and the house, you know, that I'd grown up in, that I was still living in at that time. So what were your thoughts when I
I was super excited. I had just had a baby that spring too, so it's always nice to like feel like you're living vicariously through some of your friends when you're at a point where you're not going to be like envious, or it's nice to have kind of that, like you just get to live through their experiences. So that was nice, especially because it's like that was still like towards kind of the end of COVID time. So it's nice it's like a breath of fresh air. But I do remember, you were challenged, and you did sometimes like question yourselves. Like, I think, is it this one time where you maybe like didn't, there was like a route you did where you had to pass a test, but you weren't sure you were going to, or was it that you didn't pass the first one, you had another chance to do it, and you were like really nervous about it, and it was like very obvious. Like, I remember just thinking like, well, you have all the reasons why you didn't do it the first time, or something had happened. I was like, so there's really no reason why that same thing's going to happen the second time. But you pushed through and you did it. I don't know. What am I missing there? Do you remember that?
I failed the driving test to become a raft guide.
Oh, yeah, twice. Okay. Yeah, okay. It was twice, huh?
It was twice.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was like a moment.
Was it like the third and final time? It was like it was this time? Or
they didn't want to give me another one. So I was very nervous. And here I am coming out of, you know, a state of being very, very, very weak for over a decade. And, you know, just getting used to like light and sound not long before this. And now I am going to be in charge of a raft full of people and their livelihoods, and need to socialize with people I don't know while navigating a river, and being physically capable of doing all of this. So there was a lot of, I knew I could do it deep down. And there was a lot of fear around this, a lot of anxiety about this. So when we talk about pushing yourself and getting into a new reality, and if you want to create a new reality, you got to fucking do it. It's just the truth. You got to face your fears. You got to face the line. It doesn't mean you have to become a whitewater raft guide and completely change your life. You can do this in the life that you already have. You do have to face your fears. You do have to do things that scare you. You do have to get out of the anxiety that you've been in, this constant state of this type of anxiety that you're in. To get to a new place, you have to push through different anxiety to get there. And a change in general is what it takes to get here. So it's like, it's the shift, it's the transformation that's happening. It's the caterpillar that's going into the chrysalis phase and then coming out a butterfly. It takes a progression to get there. So and this is how I went into retraining. I was compassionate with myself. I took care of myself. I did the things I needed to do. And I also did that while I was rafting and while I was training to become a whitewater raft guide. Though I also was very, I don't know how to say this, because it wasn't pushy with myself. I was just firm. I was firm with myself. I was like, if I don't want to live in this reality anymore, if I don't want to be in this sick state of a body and a mind anymore, because my body was very, very sick physically, and I have to do things differently. I have to push myself past these limits that are here, past these beliefs that are here, past these ways that I've been existing and thinking and interacting with the world. I can't keep talking about my symptoms. I can't keep living in these relationship dynamics that aren't serving me or the people around me. So
yeah, I think you had definitely shifted the mindset to where you were still you had the trust, like somewhat shakily maybe in yourself, but you had the trust. And then even if that didn't work out, you knew you had kind of followed like a calling. Like this at least called you. It's not like she was pushing herself to do something that didn't feel in alignment. It's still, there was like there was a little nudge, right, that you felt like towards this. But I do believe like if you didn't pass that, that would have been a catalyst to like something else, and then you would have gotten that little like other nudge or like an epiphany or just a ping to follow something else. And so you still had, the root of it was the trust. Like, I no longer want to do this. I need to do something else. So like, show me the way. But it's interesting that it took you a couple times, because it's like that universe was like, are you really gonna, like, are you gonna give up? Like you got tested majorly. So you have to kind of have that perseverance and that resiliency. And so like you were able to like retrain your brain to do that.
Yeah. And I had been doing that, I guess, for so long with everything, because it so often was, felt like I took one step forward and then two steps back kind of thing, when in reality that isn't what was happening. Even if it didn't feel like a big thing, I was taking two steps forward and one step back. And that was just the way that it went for, a long time, as, I can do this, I got it, things are aligning. And then, oh my God, I'm having this day and I'm having these doubts and I'm having these fears. And it's like, okay, I can do this, I got this. And I'm making a little bit of progress. And then it's like, oh wait, there feels like there's a setback now. And life happens too. And you're right, like, whitewater rafting was not my like career goal or a life goal of mine, though I did have a vision of that as a child, that I was going to do that, weirdly enough.
Okay.
But I actually realized in 2021, I was sitting around a campfire with a bunch of friends that I was living with, and I realized I was living in my vision board that I made in like 2017. That it was fully living in my vision board. The whole vision board, because it was nature. It was being outside. It was water. I knew I loved water. I knew I loved trees. I knew that I just wanted to be out in nature. And that was something that it wasn't the easiest for me to get out into nature and to just be, going on a hike wasn't an option a lot of the times. Even getting somewhere was getting out of the house, even getting in the backyard. If there was a lawnmower going in the yard, I couldn't sit in the yard. I was putting my noise canceling headphones on and sitting inside. So my vision board was all trees, all water sports, because I didn't have a rafting picture on there, but I did have kayaks, and I did have paddle boards, and I did have swimming, and I did have multiple things of water. The only picture I had of like a house or a home was windows looking out onto water. I don't even know what the room looked like. It was literally just out windows like into the water. And every single place that I've lived in since then, and I've lived in like 15 different places in the past 6 years, has had water outside the window of some kind. So it's been pretty amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting here. My vision board had people sitting at picnic tables and eating and sharing a meal and eating anything and everything that you wanted on the table. And I realized I was living in that vision board.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy you've kind of come all this way, and it doesn't stop, right? It's not like you're at the destination, but you're really far along, and it feels really good.
Yeah, we're always evolving and changing, and now I have lots of new goals that I am using my brain retraining for. I continue building strength in my body. I'm testing. I love kickboxing. I love doing yoga. I am very much, a fan of constantly seeing what I can accomplish and do, and what I'm doing in my career, my social life, just, pushing the envelope, allowing myself to experience new things and not being afraid of anything. Yeah. Well, thanks for reflecting with me. I love you so much. Aww. And thank you all for joining us. If you're curious about Lyndsey and what she's doing, I'll leave her info down below. She's a wonderful practitioner of homeopathy and a Kundalini teacher, and has had lots of wisdom that she's imparted to me over the years.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you in the next video.
That lighting's great.
I know. Isn't this beautiful? I should show everybody. That's what we've been looking at over here.